My name is Louie Diaz. I work for Lowell House Inc. It's a addiction and recovery services program in the city of Lowell. It's been around for 40-something years. And I also do some work for the Sheriff's Department as a contractor at the jail. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means is July 5th of this year, I'll be celebrating 20 years without a drink or a drug.
Wow. All right.
I also have been in the field for about 18 years. I got an opportunity to do some volunteer work in the city of Lawrence, and then became a full-time outreach worker. I then became a substance abuse counselor, and then I got interested in working with gangs, and I've been working on and off with gangs for a number of years. But I'm sure you're all aware of the heroin, the opioid epidemic that this country is facing. I think it's the worst epidemic when it comes to drugs. We had the epidemic of the crack epidemic of the 80s, and now we are confronted with this opioid epidemic that is taking the country by storm, the East, and especially on the East Coast. I work right now on a project. I drive around the city with a police officer and a firefighter, and we do follow-ups on overdose calls. If the individuals survive, we go out and track them down and look for them and try to motivate them and get them into programs, into treatment. The 2015, we lost 46 in the city of Lowell. This year, 2016, we had 62, so the numbers went up, and we're sure that in 2017, the numbers will probably go up even more. So it's an epidemic that, like I said, that's taken this country by storm. And we are, in the team I'm with, we're in like the eye of the storm. We're out there, boots on the ground, reaching out to these men and women, the teens, getting them, motivating them and getting them involved. I'm originally from Lawrence. I grew up in Lawrence. I'm the oldest of two other brothers, and my father was a minister, and I don't even think my father got a parking ticket, never mind an arrest. But I grew up in the South Lawrence, and in a very nice neighborhood. We were the only Latinos, Hispanics living in that area, and I wish if I knew why, I think I'd be the Bill Gates of addiction, and I'd be able to, answer and help more individuals. I got involved with drinking in North Lawrence. I'd go down to North Lawrence and hang out, and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and that's how I got involved with the drinking and the drugging. And it cost me, a lot of pain, and my family as well. I ended up going to prison in 1993 for fighting with a police officer, and they gave me a 10-year prison sentence, and I had to do a little under 4 years. And when I went to prison, I had what I call a spiritual awakening in prison. Like I said, I come from a good family, and I knew my parents, were devastated. They had taught me well, and I just hung out with the wrong people. So I got connected in prison with the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, and also with the Protestant Church, and I got very involved with them. And when I got out of prison, I basically just got connected with that community. And like I said, I'm celebrating 20 years, July 5th of this year. The same people that helped me are still in my life, and that's why today I do what I do. I try to, help others and try to get people into programs. I've done, like I said, the substance abuse. I've done the gang intervention stuff. I'm working in jails and prisons. I'm very, very fortunate. I think I'm the only contractor that works for the Sheriff's Department that has a criminal history, and they allow me to visit this facility. I have a great relationship with the sheriff, and I've been truly blessed. While I was working at the jail a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, a film company came into the prison. The sheriff allowed them to film a documentary, They're a company out of Cambridge called Northern Light Productions. They made the Making of a Monster, the Whitey Bulger story, Confessions of the Boston Strangler, Dahmer Brothers, The Killer Poet, and a bunch of others. But they were filming this film, and they got interested in an individual that had 97 arrests on his record, a very active gang member. This guy was released from prison, from jail, and went missing. And the film company came back to the sheriff and asked if how can they find this kid. And they so the superintendent, I'm sorry, not the sheriff, the superintendent actually connected this film company with me, and I was able to find this individual. And I got him into when I first connected with him, I asked him if he had a drug problem, and he said he did. And so I got him into a detox. I got him into a program, and from a detox he went into a halfway house and got into recovery. Well, the film company got interested in me because I was working with this person, and they called me and basically offered me an opportunity to be in the film, but they also made me the central character of the film. So we filmed for about 5 years, and the film just came out. I actually brought 4 other characters into the movie. The film is called Beyond the Wall. If you can Google it at www.beyondthewallfilm.com. So the film came out about 6 months ago, and we've had screenings in the Commonwealth. We're also now, they just went to Canada. I didn't go on that trip, but we're going to Chicago, California. We're going to be traveling the country showing this film. Actually, the Department of Correction in California, I think, is interested in this film and using it as part of a curriculum in the department in the California prison system. So I'm very excited to be a part of this project. Never in my wildest dreams that I'd ever dream or think that I'd be where I'm at today. When I was active in addiction, I got in trouble, I got arrested, and here I am today, driving around in a police car. I drive with this officer all day. I am very connected at the Lowell police station with the chief and others, and I'm just blessed. I try to share this story with others because I know that there is hope. I had a lot of people that believed in me, and I was inspired by people that had done the same thing and that changed their life around. I remember one guy one time told me, he says, the best coaches were players themselves. So let me coach you, because I was a player. I've been there, done that, and that's what I did. These guys took me under their wing, and I'm truly a miracle. I should be dead with the stunts that I pulled. I went from drinking alcohol to using cocaine, and then got addicted to heroin, and the heroin almost took my life. I overdosed twice back in the 90s, and I'm glad that I'm blessed that somebody found me, and I didn't die. Now the individuals that use this heroin that's going around, it's actually laced with fentanyl, and that's what's killing them. We have fentanyl coming in from Mexico and China. Most of it is from Mexico, and the East Coast is getting where we're seeing the epidemic is stronger on this side, because in the West Coast they have black tar heroin. On this side of the country, we have powdered heroin. And so this powder, fentanyl is a powder that they're using to cut the heroin with. And now they're actually selling just straight fentanyl, because you can get a high on this stuff, and it's actually 50 to 80 times stronger than the heroin. And that's why we're witnessing and we're experiencing this. 2015, I went to 6 funerals in 2 months. I've had many individuals in my office who I've tried to work with and provide services for, and they've been dead. They've died, days later. Since I've been on this team, this opioid team, I've witnessed 4 deaths. I've gone to places where we were too late. There's a medication called Narcan that they spray. It's a nasal spray that reverses the opioid. It takes the opioids from the receptors, and the person's able to breathe again. And so, but you need to get there between the first 5 or 10 minutes. It's very important. And so there's been about 4 cases that we haven't been able to help these individuals. So I'm very involved, like I said, very involved in the community, and I'm truly blessed to have gotten the opportunity, not only to work in the field, but also to be in a film, and to get to travel the country. I did lecturing for Brown University. I went down to the San Antonio, Texas. I've been the different parts of the country when I was studying gangs. I've done consultant work. I've spoken at different, Boston BU, UMass Lowell, UMass Boston, in numerous universities and schools that I've been invited. And again, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be where I'm at today. I'm truly, truly blessed. I'm actually talking with someone now. We're in the process of even writing a book. So I want to continue in this journey and help others. Like someone helped me, I want to help others. And I'll end with this. I heard a quote in prison, and I think that's what woke me up. I always share this. The quote goes like this: "If you continue doing what you have always done, you will continue getting what you have always gotten." I remember going to state prison. I was in Walpole State Prison, and I heard somebody, the first night I was in prison, I heard somebody yell that at somebody else. So an inmate, a convict, yelled that to another convict, and I sat in my cell, and that quote echoed in my head. If I continue doing the same thing, I'm going to continue getting the same result. And I remember the next morning, I still remember the quote, and I said, I'm going to start doing something different so I can get a different result. And that's what I did in prison. I did something different, and I came out in the community, did something different, and that's why I'm where I'm at today, because I've been doing something different, and I try to motivate others to do the same thing, because there is a way out. There is a way out from drug addiction and alcoholism. You gotta want it, and and again, that's why I do what I do. Thank you.
Where do you see this going, this whole opioid epidemic?
So this opioid epidemic, I mean, it's really, I think it's getting worse every day. Like I said, in 2015, we lost 46, we lost 60-something, and just in the city of Lowell. So I have street workers, outreach workers that I work with, and counselors from all over the East Coast. There's the same epidemic is down in Florida, Chicago. I mean, it's everywhere along the the East Coast and central central states. It's bad. It's really, really bad.
What do you think we can do to help with something?
I mean, I've always, when I'm asked that question, I've always said that prevention and education, I think, is like the most important thing. I know that when I was going to school, and I grew up in, like I said, in Lawrence, went to the Greater Lawrence schools, there was never any drug and alcohol education. I think when I was probably like a junior, I heard of Scare Straight or the DARE program or something like that.
Yeah.
But we never had the drug education. And I think it's very important. And I know even not just in schools, but also at home. So I'm one that likes to do community events, and I've done a few. And they're just a drug awareness day in a community, and we try to encourage parents, families to talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol, and not in a bad way or in a threatening way or anything. Sitting down, letting them know you love them, and this is the reason you don't want them to experiment with alcohol and drugs, because it does get worse. It goes from one thing, and I've always said this. They say that the gateway drug is marijuana, and I've always said that if even a cigarette. If a person, experiments with that kind of stuff, the chance, I mean, not all, but there are some who will continue experimenting. I mean, we don't know why. Like I said, I'd be the Bill Gates of addiction if I knew why some experiment and stop and that's it, and others continue using. It's a mystery. Addiction is very, very, it's a very complicated, subject, topic. So, prevention and education, treatment, helping, programs that are in the community, halfway houses, sober houses, places like Lowell House, Community Health Center, different agencies, shelters.
Do you still have the Lowell House, the Narcan program for
Yes.
parents who have kids with addictions?
Yes, I'm actually the master trainer for the Lowell House, and I do I educate train people to use Narcan. And we also provide it free.
That's what I wanted to know. I don't think a lot of folks know about. When I heard about it, I had friends of mine who had kids with addictions, and I said, you need to call Lowell House. You can at least have Narcan in your home.
Yes.
On your person, so if one of your children is suffering from this.
You spray it?
So it's a nasal. Yeah. So if a person overdoses on pain medication, it only works for opiates. So the pain medication, the narcotics, Percocets, Vicodin, oxycodone, morphine, methadone, all these pain medications, including heroin, once it's in the system, it all becomes morphine in the system, and that's what blocks the receptors. And when the receptors are blocked, the respiratory system just shuts down. So this nasal spray takes the morphine off of the receptors for 30 to 90 minutes, and the person's able to breathe again. During that 30 to 90 minutes, he can get some attention at the hospital, and you're able to save his life. And so the nasal spray's been around for decades, and now it was mostly like in hospitals and paramedics and EMTs. Now, like everybody has it. The Lowell police all carry it. The community has it, so we're providing it at Lowell House, and it's free. So I do trainings where I teach everyone. It's about 20-minute, 30-minute training, and you get to have a Narcan kit that you can take home. And believe it or not, I had a mother who said, I don't have any family members that I know of. I don't even have neighbors that use drugs. But somebody encouraged me to take this training, to carry the Narcan, and she did. And she said that she went to Air, Massachusetts, or Fitchburg, and she was in a McDonald's, and she seen some commotion, something going on in the bathroom, and somebody had said, it looks like it's an overdose. This woman, in her purse, she had the Narcan, or I think it was in her car or something, which is supposed to be kept at room temperature, but she had it I think it was in her car. She ran out, got it, came back in, but she was so nervous. The training she had just went out the window. She gave it to somebody there that knew how to use it, and they were able to save this girl's life because this woman happened to have this Narcan. So this medication last year we had 1,700 deaths in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just in Massachusetts. I think it was 1,762, something like that, just in the Commonwealth. More deaths through overdoses than car accidents and something else combined. That's a lot. That's a lot of deaths. So this, if we hadn't had this spray, this Narcan, we would have more, because we get about 6 calls a day in Lowell, so you can imagine.
I think in Europe there are some countries where heroin are legal.
Yeah.
What kind of overdose problems do they have compared to ours?
I'm sure they don't have the overdosing that we have here, because I think in countries that it's legal, I think it's monitored. So you're not going to get, it's like you're not going to get this bad heroin. You're probably going to get some good quality stuff that's going to, not going to kill you. Here, because it's illegal and it's like underground labs and drug dealers putting all different types of chemicals in it. That's what makes the heroin very dangerous, because drug dealers just want to make this heroin very potent. So they'll continue to put stuff in it. And fentanyl is the substance they're putting in that's killing people right now. You can overdose.
Would you be in favor of us legalizing it then, the way they do? Or?
No, I wouldn't. You know why? Because I think that when a person is on heroin or on opiates, you lose him. This person, their feelings change. If you see, I don't know if anyone in this room has seen a heroin addict or somebody that's on methadone. They sit there and they're nodding out and they're walking around. They look like zombies, and they're not functioning normal when you're on those pain medications, because you're avoiding. It's a pain medication, so it numbs you. So you're not really dealing with your emotions. You don't know how to deal with emotions. That's why all these individuals that are addicted to drugs, once they stop using the drugs, then it's that counseling and that therapy for those emotional stuff and all that stuff that comes with it. So I wouldn't be in favor of it, because I know what it does to individuals. How they do it in those countries, I'm not sure. I even hear they have safe houses where they allow people to go into these houses and do the drugs. And if they overdose, they have nurses there that will give them Narcan and will attend them, which is, I think, it's insane. But Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going around within Rotary now to address this issue. And I've had breakfast with the police chief in Carlisle. They all carry Narcan. And I happen to know a lot of drug dealers from Lawrence and Springfield because I teach in prison. And I've gone to some of these things that they're putting on for adults in the suburbs. And so this whole thing, it's the fellow that drove that thing with Governor Baker has a proposal floating around now that Rotary get together and produce a video, and because it's a way to get to a lot of people. And the younger people who are doing this stuff, in my opinion, a lot of the channels that they're using to try and reach the audience that are overdosing, most of the stuff I've seen is aimed at middle-class white parents. And that has a place. I mean, I know at least 2 kids from Carlisle who wound up over here in the prison, and one for dealing heroin. And so it's a problem in all these communities. And my sense is that and what I've told the people in my Rotary Club, and the reason I said, look, before we do anything, let's go meet with the police chiefs. The people are already doing this stuff. Let's figure out what they're already doing and figure out if there's something we can do to augment that, because just in eastern Massachusetts, there's 52 Rotary clubs, and they're all community-centric. And a lot of, like, I'm from the Concord Club. There's 85 people in that club. A lot of them are business owners, the police chief, the fire chief, the town manager, minister of the biggest church there. They all belong to the Rotary Club. So they have a lot of reach in the community. And we're supposed to meet with the police chief in Concord to talk about this, but I put together a presentation for the police chief and fire chief to show them what I think how Rotary could help, and a lot of it has to do with the roots that are in the community. A bunch of Rotary clubs are also associated with the community's TV stations, like he is, this club here in the lunch club is, and that provides a channel to get out information through the TV, through video. So I think the Rotary Club could do a lot of things, and there's a lot of people in the Rotary Club motivated to do things, and there are people doing things right now to do things, but I've been sort of pushing back on some of these people that they have. That guy Gino, Gino, he ran into Governor Baker down in Washington D.C. and he strong-armed him, and
That's Gino.
And Baker said, "Hey, I want to get back together with you guys to see what we can do." And so I've recently, as this week, sent back an email saying, like, look, let's get into the governor's office, somebody that has an outlook on what's going on in all of Massachusetts, see what they're already doing, and see if we could supplement that. And the other thing I noticed, too, was if you were at the Governor Baker event, when he was up there on the stage, I think he knew why he was there, but maybe he didn't. When somebody asked him the question, what can Rotary do to help you with this opiate problem? He got a blank stare on his face. I don't know if you remember that. I mean, he just kind of blanked out, and then, being the good politician he is, he just fell right back in and said, keep doing what you're already doing in the community. When I had breakfast with the police chief in Carlisle, I was talking to him about Rotary and thought we could help in the community. The same goddamn thing. He looked at me like, you could just tell that they couldn't connect the dots in terms of, like, how could the Rotary Club help? Keep doing all that stuff you do. But if we put together something in conjunction with what the state's doing, or an organization like yours, I mean, we have a really good distribution channel, and we have speakers in every week like you in all these clubs, and there's 1,700 to 2,000 Rotarians just from the center of Massachusetts over to Waltham. So the guys that I've had in my classes in the prison are almost all Hispanic or African American. And I know the guys that were in Springfield, or from Springfield. I mean, they were getting heroin from the Bronx. It's coming up 91 into the Bronx in the distribution. I imagine there's some kind of channel around here, too, the same thing, that gets it into the towns. And, that's probably what the primary distribution channel is. And, I mean, I think that within 48 hours, I could buy heroin. I know enough about it, and I know where to go. And and so there's a distribution channel issue, but there's also the education thing. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and most people who grew up in the 70s who were teenagers or in college, I mean, you couldn't exist without having doing drugs, but including cocaine. But heroin, you know, that was still like, and there's an Al Pacino movie called Panic in Needle Park.
I've seen it.
Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
That was a big crisis.
That's the kind of stuff that I think might have some impact with
Yeah,
these people.
yeah.
Scare the shit out of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
And then a lot of times these people go talk at these things. It might be the parent of somebody who died. I think it would be interesting to get an active addict in there, or you know, film people. I mean, you have to get permission and all that kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I've been into the detox center in Lowell, and it's not necessarily a pretty place. You know, when those people first come in, and I've been in the detox center at the VA hospital too, and when those people first come in, they're like you said, you're like, ooh,
Yeah,
you know.
they're a mess. They're a mess. You know, when I hear you speak about you know, working the Rotary Club, you know, doing stuff. One of the things that I've said to a lot of the churches that I've when I've gotten together with the faith-based community is always that awareness, teaching, you know, bringing awareness to your community. I mean, I've asked people from, you know, different neighboring towns, have they ever done an activity in your town that you know educates the community on the drug epidemic, and they say no.
So, funny you mention that, because we have a meeting on Sunday in my church.
Yeah.
We have a committee. It's called the Social Action Committee, but it does the same kind of stuff Rotary does for humanitarian things. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, I call him a kid since I'm an old man, almost an old man. But anyway, 32 years old, went to school with one of my kids, and he committed suicide. You know, that there's at some level, there's definitely some link between mental illness and the same reasons people commit suicide. They don't have any hope. You know, they don't see things getting better or whatever, and drugs take them off. I remember there was a girl that was in that HBO movie Down on the Cape that they did.
Yeah.
And she was in that movie, but she subsequently overdosed and died in a halfway house. But I remember a quote from her that I never forgot. She said, "When I was shooting heroin, it was like it was Christmas morning every day."
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind
Do you think this movie would be a good place to start for the community?
Yeah, I want to check out the movie.
And have like something in the town and have this showing and offer it to the community to come. And is that something that?
Yeah,
is it more for people that are?
Well, the film is
Everybody's concerned
is
about
a reentry / substance abuse film. Actually, every character in the film struggles with addiction, and so it's a powerful film, but it's also based on guys that get out of jail and struggle. And you mentioned mental health. A lot of my clients, I mean, like I said, I've been in this field for 18 years, and I've sat down with, God knows, probably thousands of individuals in every place that I've worked. And, you know, mental health is one, you know, that the reason, you know, the self-medicating. Also, some of the stories, the trauma that some of these individuals have been through, you know, I look at them and I'm like, if I was in your shoes, I'd be doing, you know, the drugs. I mean, kids that have been through hell and back. I just ran into someone on the train tracks, and it crushed. My coworkers looked at me and they were like, "Wow, Louie was really moved by this," because all summer long we're going to campsites, the tent cities we call them, and the addicts and homeless people are living in the tents. So there is a tent out on the train tracks, and there's 2 girls living in this tent. And one's I thought they were about the same age, but they're not. And so we the winter comes, the snow, we go there, and they're living inside this tent, and I'm afraid they're going to die. And we want to get them into treatment, and so we're always there, and you know, we've planted the seed, and we're always trying to encourage them to, you know, get into treatment, and they don't want to. They're both heroin addicts. So this week on Monday, we go out to this tent site, and we encounter just one of the girls. And I says to the girl, "When are you going to get into treatment? When are you ready?" And she goes, "Well, maybe now I'll get into treatment now that my mother is in treatment." And I said, where'd your mother get into treatment? And she said, she's up in Brockton or something. And I said, and what about your friend that was here with you? And she says, that was my mother.
problem.
And I said, so that, and it just blew my mind. I'm saying, so this girl that you've been sleeping in this tent with, that's your mother? And she says, yeah. She says, I have 3 brothers and a sister. They're all heroin addicts. So is my father. My father's doing a 15-year prison sentence. My heart dropped. And she said her mother introduced her to IV drug use when she was 14 years old. And she's 19. She's been using heroin with her mother ever since. And I couldn't believe, I thought they were just 2 friends because the mother doesn't look too old. So I was under the impression that with just two girls, 2 teenage girls, and it wasn't. That was her mother. And so I have made it a point to try to reach this girl, and I said, you got to break this cycle. But the whole family, her siblings and the mother and father. And so I see a lot of guys at the jail and a lot of guys that I run into on the street. That's what they grew up with. Even grandparents using drugs. And so, it's crazy. But yeah, I think we need more, agencies, organizations getting involved, and because we're losing a lot.
So the community TV stations all have everything you need to set up a forum with the microphones and all that stuff, because that's how they do the public meetings and all that stuff. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I did one in Carlisle on the Haiti thing. When after a Haitian earthquake, we were raising money to buy shelter boxes. And I got the equipment from the community TV station, basically the microphones and the amplifiers and all the recording stuff and whatever. And we did it at our church, and our church and the Rotary Club promoted the thing. And we had the president of Oxfam America, Oxfam America, who hadn't lived in a street from me, who now lives in Acton. We had a Haitian state rep, a woman who was from Haiti. We had a guy from our Rotary Club that was doing a couple of grants there in Haiti, and another fellow from All Hands, which is a disaster relief organization. So what I've been talking about the Rotary Club doing is sponsoring a forum like that and having somebody talk about the opiate problem, somebody talk about suicide, and somebody talk about mental illness.
Yeah.
And have those speakers out there. And
we held an event in Lawrence. We called it. We named the event "Time for Change," and it was a community awareness day. And we brought an individual that was involved with gangs. So we touched on that subject of the gangs. We touched on the subject of the substance abuse, the drug epidemic, and also just the violence. With teenagers getting into not just gangs, but in like street violence and stuff. So we had different people, and then we had 22 different vendors from the city that came in to set up tables. And so everybody from the community, it was on a Saturday, and it rained, and we had about 350 people that showed up from the community, and all these tables and vendors that were there, we just educating the community. And I thought that was such a powerful thing to do in like different towns, and because it's you turn on the news, you hear the opioid epidemic. That's all you hear, because it's here, and it's taking a lot of lives.
When I had breakfast with the police chief in Carlisle, he was talking about this program, because I went to the one they did in Carlisle.
I met him at a sheriff's. They did the Chiefs Association, and we showed the film, and the chief from Carlisle introduced himself.
So he said they're trying to do something in the Bedford school system, but get this, the Parents Teachers Association, or whatever the hell it is, the lobby group for the parents for the school, they don't want them to do it, because they're afraid they're going to give the kids the idea to go do heroin. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's the wrong idea. That's the opposite. So that's another thing that the Rotary Club could help with, because we could lobby locally.
That's where you gotta go
to get that information out.
I used to go to the school in Lawrence, and there was a teacher there, and the assistant principal. They would invite me every year. One year they called me and they said, we can't have you come back in because we had parents complaining. I guess because the children went home and mentioned, and I've always, when I speak in school, I always say, kids, don't look at me as a role model. I'm somebody that was lucky and made it. Almost everyone that dabbles with drugs dies, with heroin addiction and stuff like that. So I'm one of the lucky ones. And then, I mentioned also that most of my friends are all dead. And but the school complained. Parents complained, and then they didn't allow me to come back into the school. Then they did some other activities and stuff, but they didn't want recovering drug addicts, like a Chris Herron, who does he was a basketball, played for the Celtics, and powerful stories like that. They didn't want them in the schools.
What are your thoughts about the program they put together with Gloucester? Seems like they've had a lot of success there.
Yeah, I actually I met with Chief Campanello, and we did a. He's no longer there, but Chief Campanello and I think his name is Dr. Levy, Mike Levy. We did a presentation in Salem, and I thought it was a great program. I just met the outreach worker that the Gloucester Police have hired, and he's been in the field for 30-something years. And what he does is he goes out and does kind of like what I'm doing here in Lowell, reaching out to individuals. But I thought that program was amazing because you had people going in there. There's always, and like I said, I work in the inner city. There's always that thing between, the police and the community, and it's like state and church. Well, with these types of programs, the police are able to kind of connect with the community, and the community's kind of like will trust them, the active community that uses drugs, and to go to them and ask for help, and the police able to provide services for them. I thought that was great, and I'm seeing a lot of that because the Arlington Police, I think that's what we kind of copied, and that's how we're doing this. The cop and the outreach specialist together. So if the police can do that, I think it'd be great because the police are looking at these individuals not as criminals. They're looking at them as sick people who need treatment, who need help. And why arrest these individuals if these are just drug users, not the drug dealers? That's different. That's a different story. But the drug users who are buying a bag, who are committing petty theft and crime and so on and so forth, providing treatment for them. I think that's great. So what Chief Campanello started down in Gloucester, I wish that every.
Well, what do you think the resistance is? Why do you think more police departments haven't embraced it?
So the police department in Carlisle, Chief told me, if they get called in on an opiate thing, they don't arrest anybody.
Yeah.
They refer them to a drug treatment program, and they follow up and make sure they do it. But they don't arrest people anymore.
Yeah.
That's a different change in attitude.
Well, if it's an overdose call, there's years ago, every time a person overdosed, his friends would take off and leave him there. They were afraid to call the police. Now they have this new the Samaritan law that covers the person that's making the phone call and also the person that's overdosed. So if the police come in, if the person says, I'm the one that made the phone call, the police are not going to question him or arrest him or anything. So that's great. So now addicts, active users are actually calling 911 now, which is great. At one time, they didn't want to do that because if the cops came, they would arrest. And a lot of the police, I've spoken with a lot of police officers, they're buying into this. They're like, you know what? Yeah, they're dying. Let's start helping. And some of them are carrying Narcan. They're treating. I know the officer that I work with. When I was introduced to him, and they brought up this, we're going to put this team together. I was very worried and concerned because I work at a jail and I've done gang intervention work, and the guys in the community trust me. So I was very worried that now they're going to see me with a police officer. They're going to think that I'm ratting on them or that I work for the police, and that trust was was going to ruin my relationship with them. And this officer that I work with has such a great connection with the community that the community has welcomed him, and they also look at me as someone so they look at both of us as these guys are angels. These guys are out there trying to help you, and we've walked into situations underneath bridges inside tents where we've caught individuals shooting drugs, and the officer hasn't arrested them. He's basically said, listen, if you don't go and see Louie at Lowell House and get some treatment, I'm going to go after you. And some of these guys will come around, others will disappear, but we have the trust now from the community that the officer and I are not out there arresting. We're not arresting people. All we're doing is helping them because addiction is a disease, a brain disease. The first couple of times you use it, it's a choice you make. But then once your brain is altered, it becomes a disease that needs to be treated.
Yeah, you don't hear anything about this in the news. You hear nothing about it in social media. I think if they had about the fact that other police agencies, officers are actually taking or embracing this Gloucester program?
Yeah, you don't hear.
Well,
You don't hear much of it.
You know, the thing is too, with this Black Lives Matter
Yeah.
movement, I mean, one of the things that's going on in the police department, it's been growing over time, is the emphasis on community policing.
Yeah.
Because partly because of this Black Lives Matter thing, with that if you build tighter relationships with the community, then some of the issues that have come up with the police are likely not to happen. And I know, like in Concord, I don't know how many other police departments are like this, but the police chief that they hired there a few years ago, they specifically hired him because he had a really good background in community policing. And what they did in Concord is, like, all the cops there have to have a bachelor's degree. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So the shift in, and so to the extent that this opiate epidemic thing also kind of complements this community policing thing for the reason you just said. I mean, it kills two birds with one stone.
It does.
I mean, it helps the community. It helps the opiate issue, but it also helps with this entire community policing thing.
Yeah.
So,
The city of Lowell was complaining at one time, or they still are complaining about the the panhandlers and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know how many panhandlers we have gotten into treatment, gotten them off the street. They're not there anymore. I mean, the city probably won't even realize that, but our team has gotten these panhandlers off the street into programs because they are people who need help, and they're most of them are addicts and alcoholics who need some treatment and some services, and we provide that for them. So I think it's I had a police officer one time tell me, he says, "You're a gang intervention specialist and you work where you're doing outreach." He says, "Why is it that I can go into a community or a housing projects or something, and we'll talk to the same people, and they will open up to you and give you information and tell you everything that's going on, and they won't to me?" And I said, "Well, this is the difference between you and I." I said, "When we go into the community, let's say we were called or we know that there's some fighting going on, I'm going to go in there as a gang specialist, and what I'm going to try to do is make peace. You're going to do the same thing, but you want to know why they're fighting. And they might be fighting over a stolen car, and you might make an arrest. When I go in there, I'm not asking why they're fighting. I just want them to stop fighting." And I said, "And that's the difference between you and I. And that's why when you go into the community and you want to know why they're fighting and you make an arrest, then that's when, they don't want to trust or talk to cops, because they think that if the cops come into their turf, they're going to arrest them." So with this officer that I'm working with, and with more officers like that believe in treatment and want to help the community, it just changes that concept that the cops are not bad. They're here to protect us and help us at the same time. So I love, like I said, the city of Lowell, what Chief Taylor's doing, and the most of the Lowell police they're all on this, on board with this to help people. So
That's great. Thank you, Glenn.
Steve was saying he grew up in the 60s and 70s. I grew up in the 30s and 40s, right? At that time, the only drug concern was alcohol. That was it. That's the only thing you heard.
Yeah.
And, it's unreal how things have changed. And, and the dominance of opioids now is just unbelievable.
And you can imagine how it'll probably change. So we have this fentanyl that's coming in. We just heard of another one that, I don't think it's hit this area yet. It's called carfentanil, which is actually stronger than fentanyl. So I think it was in Cincinnati, Ohio, in that area, and it was in different parts of the country. But in the 80s and early 90s, we got the crack epidemic. They learned how to cook cocaine, and they made it into a freebase, and that's what they smoked. And now this heroin mixed with this fentanyl during this time. So God knows what we'll see later on in the future. That's why, again, I think prevention and education, teaching kids and families, because some families don't dare. My father never talked to me about drugs. I think he said to me about sex maybe one time. He said, "Make sure you never get a girl pregnant." And this is a minister, a pastor. And make sure you never get a girl pregnant. Never sat down with me and said, you don't have sex till or talk to me about drugs and alcohol. He never did that. But my father was the best, provider, responsible, decent human being, but never did that. I wish he would have done that. And family, so I try to educate families, in love, because my father said, "Don't get a girl pregnant." And so it's like threatening. So I'm not going to mess around. But if he came and hugged me and told me he loved me, and this is why I don't want you to have sex, because if you get a girl pregnant, your life's going to get complicated. You're going to have to be a man, and so on and so forth. I probably wouldn't have never, messed around. So it's important. It's important that.
The observation I make in all of your presentation is that you're living life in service.
Mm-hmm.
And Rotary essentially is a service club. And, like Steve mentioned, Rotary can do something.
Oh, yeah.
To assist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So and I applaud
Thank you.
your involvement.
Thank
Your duty and dedication.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.